Being recorded today for your information. Okay, evacuation procedures, Nellie?
Oh, in case of an emergency, please walk out this door, walk towards the lobby, at the security desk, go out the door that's to their left. You walk out of the building, you take a left and take another left, cross the street, we meet at the Gray Bar parking lot.
Okay, thank you. The minutes of the August 22nd board meeting, okay? August 22nd board meeting, everybody got copies in advance, any errors, omissions?
Did you take out my error there? Is that what you did? Did you take out the error that I wrote you about or no?
From the minutes?
From the minutes, yeah. It says that I was the president of the AMTA board, which I was not.
Right, this is right.
So that has to be taken out.
Former president?
But you gave me, I have so many minutes here.
Okay, it says former president.
Yeah, former president. I was never the president of the AMTA anyway.
I think it was Matt.
It was Matt.
I think
Was
Matt
the-
Bowles.
Matt Oldsman, yeah.
Okay, so that's a correction. Okay.
Correction.
Okay, yeah, and then we'll just make that as a
We
note.
were just
Don't
trying to
fix
see
the
if-
minutes, you make a note as
Right.
in the next minutes, yeah, okay. And anything else? Do we note in the minutes that the session's being filmed, or that's just a courtesy? Okay, any other errors, omissions, or questions?
He just wanted to make sure we were reading it, that's why I put
That's
that mistake.
exactly right, yeah. Exactly. Okay, motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second?
With-
Okay.
As amended.
with
With
that
amended,
amendment.
as amended,
As
okay.
amended, yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Okay, good.
And Matthew, not you.
No, that's not coming, yeah. Okay.
Who seconded the motion?
I did.
It's unanimous. Should I move a little slower? Okay, application review subcommittee, designated subcommittee to review applications to consider applicant qualifications.
In the past, we have had, we used to have an application subcommittee so that we would, whether we would do it at the beginning of the board meeting or later on in the afternoon. And that was so that if the board wants to deny an application, then the applicant's not waiting for another board meeting to be able to do that, because it needs a quorum of the board in order to deny an application for licensure. So I was wondering if we can reconvene a subcommittee so that we're able to do that.
Okay, and it's typically been massage therapist, licensed massage therapist.
Yes, it used to be Tank, Bernadette, and I think TAC used to be, formed the application subcommittee.
So can I get clear exactly what that subcommittee does? I didn't really understand.
So you review the applications for licensure that maybe, that Michael or I would have questions on, so if we're concerned
Like
about.
ahead of the time, before we got here, or when we're here?
When you're here.
When we're here.
So you would so we would maybe carve out maybe an hour, either before the board meeting or after the board meeting, so that you can just review the applications and make decisions on whether or not this person can be approved for licensure or not.
And if they were approved, it would just go, and if they weren't, it would go to the full board?
If we have a quorum, so the quorum would be 3. So if we have 3 board members, so if it was usually, in the past it was the massage therapist, so if it was
Matt.
you, Matt, and Tank, then we wouldn't need to bring it back to the
I
full
see.
board.
We could
It
just
would, you guys can just decide, because that would be the quorum of the board.
But we could say we want to bring it to the full board.
Yes, you can do that as well.
Okay.
Seeking to set that out and looking for 3 volunteers.
3 volunteers. So that means that the board meeting is really going to be longer for those people, is that right?
Yes.
Typically, how long?
But not necessarily, because if you form this committee, then Michael could call that person and ask him to get some feedback, I think. That's how we.
Well, getting the feedback, one board member can't make the decision for the entire board. So this is to expedite the application process. So if there are 3 board members who are convening meeting at the same time, then the 3 board members can make a decision, because that would be a quorum of the board. If you're just if it's just some clarification that we need on something, that's different. But these are the cases where it's one of those where we need a board decision as to a vote as to whether to approve or not approve.
But potentially, for example, item 6 on today's agenda is an hour devoted to application review. if you had a subcommittee, conceivably, this meeting would be an hour less, and probably that hour might be the time that the
But that
review
hour-
committee spends it.
So that hour would be, it would just be just as long for those people, except it would actually be an hour longer for those people.
Well, I think the general meeting would be an hour less, and your meeting would be an
Yeah.
hour, so it would be the same for the subcommittee, and for the other
We'd
members,
have to
it
get
would
here
be
earlier or
shorter.
stay later, that's the problem. Yeah, I mean, I could do both.
Yeah, but I'm a little, I just need clarification. To expedite the process.
If one board member reviews an application and says, well, I don't think that this person should be licensed, we have to wait till the next board meeting so that the board can make the decision, the full board can make the decision, or if we don't have, the subcommittee can request additional information, the subcommittee can ask the applicant to even appear before the subcommittee, then it wouldn't be that the entire board had to be present to do this. The subcommittee doesn't necessarily have to meet on a board meeting date. We can probably try to see, instead of trying to get 5 board members to appear, we could probably say, can the subcommittee, we have this application that we need to make a decision on now. Are you able to meet this Thursday, or are you able to meet next week, or something like that, so that we're not bound by meeting just at the board meeting.
So that would mean that, okay, the question is, does that mean we have to meet in person? Or
Yes.
We have to meet in person, so it would
Yes.
mean an extra meeting for those 3 people.
It may, if we can do it that way, or sometimes if we could do it at the beginning of a board meeting, but it would just expedite the process, because we need a quorum in order to make these decisions.
So for example, item 6 today, which is 11:30, could be put at the end of the day, so it wouldn't change the net length of the meeting, but the 3 licensed massage therapists.
So in other words, you could leave and we could do it.
Basically, yeah, much more informed.
But with this, like, a more informed, a smaller, consistent group, I would imagine that the process would become shorter after a certain amount of time, because the 3 of you would be working together, you'd sort of develop your own rules, you'd know, and so the process itself actually probably will go quicker. It just sort of seems, you know, that's the value of
But
groups.
just,
That's what
I
happens.
just want to understand, because, you know, I've been doing this 5 years, so if Michael has a question about an application, that could be answered maybe by one of these subcommittee members. It's a simple question. You can call Ben up, I'm not saying you can't, but call Ben up and say, yep, that's fine. I have no,
Yeah,
I have
that
no
would be
issues,
technical.
I have no issues with that, and then that wouldn't have to wait.
No, that wouldn't have to wait till the next board meeting, because the board has delegated authority to
Okay.
staff to be able to review and make decisions on these applications. There are certain cases, though, where we're not able to make that determination on the application, whether it requires, because it may be that you review it and you're like, I'm not too sure about whether this person should be licensed or not. You can't make that decision individually. It would have to be the full board that would have to make that decision, or a quorum of the board to make the decision to deny the application. And let's say Ben reviews it and Ben is like, oh, well, I think this person should be able to be licensed. We need a 3rd person to be
Okay,
able to
but-
say.
But if Michael calls up Ben, this is just for what if? So I have a question about this course on the transcript. I'm not too sure if it meets our requirements. If he calls up Ben, Ben says, yes, it meets our requirements. That's enough for that person to obtain a license. Is that-
Yes.
Okay, so that doesn't have to go,
No.
okay.
No.
I just wanna make sure.
Don't we only get the ones that check, I've had a felony conviction or something,
No,
or there's some problem?
that's different. That's a good moral character. That needs to be done at a board meeting.
Everybody.
That's a good moral
This is
character.
educational qualification.
Oh, this
Yes.
is just for educational
Yes.
qualifications, not the felony.
Right,
that's-
just
No,
Oh, okay,
not
well, that- you didn't
one.
say that, okay, that's what I didn't get, that was a missing piece for me. I see, so we gotta say, okay, so there's one in here that has education, an educational qualification thing, I think, that I read.
Two of them, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of them, and so those might have been handled otherwise. That's why you're saying, not the
Yeah.
ones that have a felony
No,
conviction.
not those.
Oh,
that's important.
okay, so I'm happy to do that, however, my concern is staying really long or meeting another time, that's tough. So, you know, so.
We used to do them at the beginning of the board meeting, and just have the board, we come, to the board meeting with the applications, and the board members who are formed the subcommittee would quickly
Right.
review them. And if they have any concerns, or they want the full board to discuss it, then we could do it at the board meeting, at the, full board meeting.
So for instance, if we came like at 9:30, let's say, and we reviewed those type of things, for, you know, if there was one, then that would expedite things. So I would be willing to do that. I don't want to come an extra time, because that would be tough, especially for some of these guys. who
Those
have
would
to
be
fly.
rare circumstances, and certainly we would contact the three of you, if you were willing to be, for it to be the three of you, but it doesn't necessarily just have to be the three of you. So it could be, if the full board wants to meet and discuss these, then it's up to the full board to do that as well. It doesn't necessarily we don't have to form this subcommittee, is what I'm trying to say.
So maybe let's
It's
talk
up to
about
you.
it among ourselves then for a minute. Do we want to form this? Is this a good thing to do, or?
We've done in the past, I mean, I look at an application, it takes me 4 times longer, 5 times longer than it takes you, Hank, or Matt, because, I mean.
You don't know the field, I see.
Yeah.
So you think it's a good idea?
I think so, yeah.
And Hank, you think it's a good idea? Okay, so why don't we do
And
it?
Karen, do you think it's a good idea?
No problem with me.
Karen.
Oh, yeah, many times, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Hi, Karen, I'm Ben.
Pleasure. Karen Burns White.
Hi, Karen.
Hi.
What? Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks, I always remember about.
Fantastic.
Good. You're older.
Well, excuse me, that terminology, older, I don't.
Yeah, more tenured. More
I might
tenured
be
than you.
wiser, but.
Wiser than the board, okay.
And more tenured, yes.
Okay, it's always a bad word. All right, good, all right. We need another word. We know you have a sense of humor. All right, okay, so we got.
So, do we need a motion? Okay, so looking for a motion to.
Yeah, I make a motion that we
Okay.
form a subcommittee to make those decisions at the beginning of the meeting, no earlier than 9:30 in the morning.
That's a very
Fair
specific
enough.
motion, yes. Okay, for educational qualification. Karen, did you-
I second, yes.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And the people designated on this
Shall
subcommittee,
be,
and
yes.
one person is not here,
Ben?
so we have
We're going to
to.
volunteer Matt.
We can't just volunteer him,
We're
but
going to.
I will,
He'll contact him.
okay.
All right.
So the
That makes
people
sense.
on the subcommittee, because you have to specify who these people
That's
are,
true.
will be Tank,
Please, it's Stephen Tank.
Stephen
Oh,
Tank.
sorry.
Tank is,
an alias.
Stephen Tankanel, Ben Benjamin, and we're
I
going to ask
learned
Matt.
fast, don't I?
Intended to deceive, okay.
All right, good.
Okay, great, thank you, okay.
Done.
Okay, next, okay, discussion of promulgation of continuing education regulations.
Okay, so I, unfortunately, am going to recuse myself from any discussion of CE providers because I am a CE provider. And it wouldn't be so good for me to promulgate these regulations. I believe that I would not be prejudicial. I just don't want to give the appearance of conflict of interest, so I will, remove myself from making these regulations in the interest of moving things forward nicely.
Do we agree with that?
So,
Okay.
so does that mean I go out of the room? Can I go in the gallery over there? What do I do? Tell me.
Yeah.
I can sit over there?
Well, before he leaves,
Yeah.
I operate a school and we also offer continuing education. I don't teach it personally. So I don't know if you feel that's a,
Profits from
in
this.
other words, I don't even know what's going on, but I'm not involved in it, but we do teach it.
Okay, and you're the owner of the school, so there is a
Financial
financial interest or profit in it as well. So maybe we can table this discussion so that when Matt is here, we will at least have.
Matt would be.
That would be good, because he's not a continuing education provider. Okay, it should be really Matt and you, and you, and the new, him, the person who just does massage therapy, because we should be out.
Melody, do we have a specific proposal we made? This is just a general discussion at this point.
This was going to just be a general discussion. We were talking about, at the last board meeting, we discussed maybe if we could move forward with at least promulgating regulations for continuing education, because that's also one of the pieces that are missing in addition to the school regs. So that was what this discussion was going to basically talk about.
Can we keep this discussion open just for a minute?
Are we allowed to
Not
discuss it without talking about specifics?
Not specifics.
You can't discuss it.
Okay.
You can't
Using yourself.
participate.
We're quiet.
Okay, could I direct my question to Mark? Could you, does AMTA have CEU recommendations or requirements?
We're actually, to be honest with you, AMTA defers to the board, and you guys sound like you're on the right path in terms of the recusals and stuff like that. We just need some regulations out there. Right now, the profession's gone too long without there being any CEU requirements. It's mandated by law, but it's up to the board to do it.
Understood, but, so you don't have for your membership, any kind of recommendation?
So we generally say 12 hours. You see across the nation, if you have a biannual license, you know, it tends to be 24 hours. If it's a triannual, it's 36 hours.
Oh, okay.
So generally 12 hours tends to be
Okay.
the lay of the land. As to how that's crafted, you know, that's the discrepancy of the board, whether it be business practices, massage,
Right.
a host of things, ethics.
Yeah, okay. Could we ask staff to do some research as to what other states are doing, states that have licensure? Could I then thank staff for their research? Okay. Is that all one? Okay. First time Tank hasn't said something.
Excuse me.
Okay, so,
Yes, my refusal to go very far.
well, we have to, okay. Okay, so this item then is what? We need a motion to table or just?
We don't need a
table it?
motion, we're just going to table
We'll
it.
table this, because we haven't decided, okay. Okay, so the next item is item 5, 11 o'clock. Okay. Testing, discussion of adding testing requirements for licensure.
As part of your individual regulations, or as part of the statute, the board can require additional requirements for individual licensure. One of the things that the board discussed at the last board meeting was possibly requiring that the licensee, well, the applicants for licensure take an exam. The board had discussed this previously when we were first promulgating individual regulations. We had discussed that, and at that time, the board was not, I think the board wasn't very happy with the security procedures that were being offered at these testing sites. So some issues came up, the board was concerned about that. So the board decided at that time that you were not going to require an exam for licensure. However, this discussion has come up again, and the board decided that you were interested in requiring an exam for licensure. There are currently, I believe there are 2 exams, and FSMTV offers one of the exams, and then there's another one that NCBTMB.
Right.
And then NCBTMB offers both a massage therapy exam as well as a massage therapy and body works exam. And the board had discussed being interested in requiring specifically just the massage therapy exam for that particular.
That's called the NCETM.
Now, did you distribute everybody the document that I sent you?
No,
Oh,
I
you
did not.
Okay. So how about
We
if I?
had some concerns about that. Peter and I did take a look at it, but I'll just put it out there, the document that it's from the
FSM.
F-
The Federation.
Yes,
Call
the Federation, and then the other one is just the
NCB.
Okay, the Federation put out a document, and they had their attorneys put out a document that basically stated that the NCB exam was not basically the best exam. It tested, they felt that it didn't test specifically.
Protect the public.
It wasn't there to protect the public, and it didn't specifically test, I guess, the or the requirements or what the board is looking for in a licensed massage therapist. But that position statement, clearly it was written by the attorneys of one particular exam, so that can be biased at best, because, I mean, they raised some points, but we also didn't give NCB an opportunity to even refute their arguments. But as part of the grandfathering legislation, both of these exams were accepted. If the board would like for.
No.
Only
NCBs didn't exist.
Yeah, MBLEX didn't
Oh,
exist.
sorry.
5 years ago. NCB was required for the grandfather.
The national certification.
Yes, the national certification exam. But if the board would like, and this is what I can do, is contact representatives from each of these organizations and have them come before the board and discuss their requirements for licensure. Also, if we're going to accept either one of these exams, we've discussed this in the past, and Peter brought this up as well, we would have to put it out for procurement. So there would be a testing vendor, so we would have to put it out there, and if both of these exams are available, then the board can decide, I believe that the board can decide that
Yes.
one is better than the
Yes.
other, and that, so they want to basically focus on just the one.
Or could we decide on both?
Or you could decide on both as well. So, that, since the board wanted this on the agenda, that's why it's on there.
Let
Go ahead.
me just put here. So I did some investigation as a result of the conversation that we had last time about the security and all that sort of thing, and how many states were, using these exams, et cetera.
That sheet has which states are using what on
Oh,
the right-hand side.
So
Okay.
there are about 38 or 39 states using the federations, and there are about 42 states using the national certification, approximately, and the federation is rapidly gaining, very rapidly catching up, and probably will pass the other one. In terms of security, they heard these concerns, I think, from lots of people, and have incredibly tight security. You have to have 2 government-issued IDs. When you register, you have to give all this information. You have to have a picture ID. You're not allowed to bring anything into the testing facility. Only your ID, that's it. And you're watched constantly. There's somebody in there watching you the entire time.
Any kind of.
Oh, and also there's fingerprints.
They
They're
do.
taking thumbprints now as well. Thank you for reminding me. So I think the security is incredibly good and very, very tight. It's also available all the time, 5 or 6 days a week, all over the country, and it's very accessible to people. The difference is that, the federations, this all, you know the history, people, do you guys know the history of why this happened? Do you know?
They actually came, both.
Both groups came
Well,
to the
okay.
board.
I'm just saying that the history of why this federation thing came about was that states wanted to have, 1, reciprocity, and 2, wanted to have an exam that they could have input into. And the National Certification Board was kind of full of itself and did not permit any input by the states. And so the federation was formed of massage boards like ours because they were not very happy with the National Certification Board at that time. It's a different structure now. They got rid of the governing body, and now they're doing it themselves, and they're doing a better job, et cetera, et cetera. However, when you create a state exam, you're concerned with safety, ethics. You're not so much concerned with the level of technique, particularly, or skill, or that sort of thing. So it accents more that than it does the other. And I would be for doing both, because I think that's easier, because everybody, and I think if you pass either one of the exams, you got to know what you're doing. They're not easy exams. They're not super hard either. But you got to have a brain in your head. You got to really study. You have to have had some decent schooling to pass the exam. And I think it would be a fantastic addition to what we have now. I think it's very important that we have either one or both. I don't care which. And I think it's a great idea to invite Deborah Persinger and whoever's the head of the NCB to come and present to us. And I know the process is long, it's arduous, probably, et cetera. I do think, when I heard that we didn't have an exam, I was shocked out of my head last time I was here. Because I think that's abominable not to have an exam. But then you can have a fly-by-night school that doesn't teach anything, and the person doesn't know anything, and then just get a piece of paper, and you're taking the word of the school. Now, most schools are great, and they do a good job, but some schools are not, and we know of they've written up paper schools. You just come in, you pay $2,500, you get your diploma. And in our state, you can do that. In another state, you can't. So I think it's behooves us, if we're going to do our job responsibly, to get one or both of these exams on the docket as soon as you can. I'll finish.
So, lots of questions. I need a little bit of history as to why the board made the decision at the start not to include an exam. There clearly had to be some discussion about that, so I'm sort of curious to go back in the minutes and understand why.
The real issue was, originally for grandfathering, the national certification exam was accepted as a mechanism. So if anyone passed that exam,
Yes.
they were grandfathered in. But after that, initial licensure after that, it was not part of the requirement. Our issue was security, in that people were able, someone else was able to take the national certification, and remember, we were.
Yes.
4 years.
Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
were not, part of the security was that your name would be able to, Karen's name would be on this application, but Nell, saying
Right.
that she's taking the exam, but Nelsie would actually come in and take the exam
So
for
we
her.
had no,
So
the
that
board,
was no
this
issue.
board, well, this board had no way of proving that person's name.
That individual,
Because
yes.
Michael would right away say, okay, I want the certificate of national certification. He had no way of proving if it was indeed you.
Right,
So we had severe, really questions about that.
okay.
And then the MPA started, I think,
Couple of years.
and then, so that was a new exam, and I think this board is a member, or I know.
Well,
I'm not
we're
sure
in
how
the
it
process of becoming members again. We were members, previously, because of the financial issues that came about, we didn't renew our dues because we really weren't using their services. We weren't using their exams. We were basically just members, but we didn't attend anything. We weren't, since the Federation offers the exam, the board wasn't using the exam. We just didn't see the benefit of it at the time. So I have resubmitted it. It's now, we've signed off on it. It's just a matter of renewing our membership in the FSMTV at this point.
What would be the additional costs associated with the taking of the exam?
$175 to $200. That's what the
And it-
standard is.
That's the standard, so that would be an addition, that would not be part of their overall schooling. That would be in addition to, as
That's
well
right.
as in addition to the license fee that they have to pay.
That's right.
Correct.
So you said $175 to $200.
Yeah, it depends on which exam you take.
Is there a renewal process in terms of, so once you take the exam, you take it one time only, and then your renewal of your license sort of serves in the capacity around continuing ed and
They're
that?
different. They're different for the Federation's one, you take it once, and that's really a function that's set up for each board, because it's made up of boards like us.
Yeah.
The national certification is good for 4 years, and you have to retake it, or you have to fulfill it, not retake it, but I don't think they do that anymore. You have to have a certain number of continuing education
CEUs, yeah.
units, like 48 over 4 years, in order to renew. But you don't have to renew.
Right.
If you renew, you're certified, but here we're just talking about taking an exam so we can say that this person actually knows something. That's its only function.
Because right now, right now, we're operating in the capacity that they know something based upon them having
Graduate.
completed.
That's right.
Okay. So the exam is currently administered electronically? They go to testing sites?
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
And take the
Yes,
exam?
exactly.
Like a Sylvan one.
Like a Kaplan, yeah, of
Yes,
course,
exactly.
absolutely. And then, does the exam, is there opportunity for the exam to be in multiple languages? That would be a question that I would have as well. So is the exam administered in English and English only? And what has our experience been, or even?
I'm not sure.
Question.
I can look into that, or when we invite them in, we can ask them if they're able to do that. I know that the contracts that we have with other boards and other testing sites, testing vendors, generally the contract spells out what we're expecting them to do,
Okay.
and then they tell us what they're expecting us to do. And it also spells out who collects the money, who gets that, and who do the students apply to directly. So it's all part of the contract. Usually what I see in there is ADA, disability, that's the
Yeah.
only thing that they usually specify in there. Sometimes they have ESL. What they'll do is, not ESL, but they'll have dictionaries. I know some boards have, some testing sites will have that as well if you need like a dictionary, but they're the ones who provide the dictionary because they want to make sure there aren't any answers. People can't bring in their own
Sure,
dictionaries.
understandable.
So then they have those types of accommodations as well for people where English is their second language. But I'm not sure if the actual exam is in a different
I
language.
haven't found that out.
I would be very interested in learning some more.
You have more questions?
No, that was pretty much it.
What's wonderful about the board is it's made up of people with different opinions on I'm gonna say something that'll probably come as a shock to most people, but I'm against the exam. Always have been against the exam, and I'm gonna tell you why, because I think my reasons are as valid as anyone else's. The first reason is, I wrote it down, that's my iPhone. Is, we have the first question of which test are we gonna require them to take, whether it be the MBLEX or the NTPM or